You know who is hoping that you're wrong is Utah. I think Utah would love to get their hands on Ace Bailey. Like, I think, I mean, you've got Jeremiah Fears going there. If the Jazz draft Jeremiah Fears, not to say you're wrong, that's not going to be a popular pick in Utah because they already have Keontae George, who has turned into a pretty good player, Isaiah Collier, who is turning into a decent player. You draft an 18-year-old point guard at a position that's not one of need. I don't know if Jazz fans are passionate enough to revolt on draft night, but I don't think Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck are going to be enormously popular in Utah. Is that just best player on the board for the Jazz, or do you see something else?
Yeah, I think best player on the board. I think, Collier and George also had the benefit of playing a lot of minutes in really bad games on really bad teams, right? And they put up numbers and early on. I think Fears is a different level of prospect. And I think, again, if you're Utah, you're still in asset gathering mode. And I think that Jeremiah Fears would certainly be a really good asset. Again, you could argue, you could go after Trey Johnston, who I had going sixth to Washington. He would be, again, he's probably more of a two guard, but doesn't necessarily solve all your problems. He is a big time scorer, though. Probably a little more exciting than Fears. If I was a fan of a team. But you're 100% right. Like if Utah can find a way, and whether that's moving up a spot or two, whether that's just hoping that people really worry that Ace Bailey's only 6'7.5" without shoes. That was a huge conversation apparently. But whatever it takes, like Ace is the type of guy that Utah could at least come out of this draft feeling good about, right? All right, we've got this big talent swing, and we're still probably going to be bad next year, and we can still go chase an A.J. DeBonsa who's been going to be in their backyard at BYU. That's been talked about for quite some time. If it's not him, okay, maybe it's Cam Boozer or Darren Peterson. This is a strong top to 2026. I know it's annoying to look ahead already, but I'm sure it's a conversation point already in NBA team conversations as well as planning for the future. And that 26 class has been circled for a bit.
So it can't be considered a hot take, but Utah's got to move up. They can't draft Jeremiah Fears. They can't do it. Ryan Smith was out there over the last week doing dozens of interviews, it seemed like. He's on all the major outlets. And he said over and over again, like he pointed out, we've got the assets to make a deal. We can do some things. Now it's time to put your money where your mouth is. You've got to take a big swing if you're the Jazz. Jeremiah Fears could turn out to be the next Chris Paul. I don't know. But it doesn't make sense for them to draft at 5 and protect all these assets that they have for the future, like 12, 13 first-round picks, whatever they have over the next 5 or 6 years. If someone like Philadelphia, maybe, which doesn't have a huge interest in VJ Edgecombe at 3 or Charlotte a level above them, if they're willing to do a deal, you've got to make that deal. I think they've got to get their hands on Ace Bailey. I think the upside of Bailey is too much for them not to roll the dice on. He could turn out to be, a ball hogging, volume shooting, low percentage wing. I don't know. He could turn out to be not worth the investment. But if you're the Jazz, the one piece you're missing is that alpha. You're missing that star. Like, I don't think Lauri Markkanen is long for Utah. They probably regret not making that deal with Golden State last year that would have gotten them something back in return. But you're building around some good young pieces there, but you don't have that one guy. I think of the guys 2 on, or 3 on, I guess, Ace Bailey's the guy that I think has the highest upside of that mix. I don't know if you agree.
100%. Yeah. I think also, like, if you're Utah, you've been accumulating all these assets for a reason, right? Yeah. Like, they're great on paper, but like at some point you have to use them. And so I think you're right that the potential match between them and Philly, if Philly says, hey, like, we think Ace is really talented, but we probably can't draft Ace if we're trying to win. But we can go down to 5 and we can go get Trey Johnston to play with Tyrese Maxey, or we can go get Jeremiah Fears to be our point guard of the future. Or we can, there'd be a lot of options for them at 5.
Now, I don't know how the contracts are a separate thing, but like if I'm the Jazz, like would I dangle Lauri Markkanen in a deal like you don't? Lauri Markkanen is not going to be there when your team eventually gets good. Like, he's not old, but he's not young enough to be part of kind of what you're doing and what you're rebuilding there. Like, they've got to get in that mix. Danny Ainge is one of the most aggressive general managers of all time. Often it's the reverse. Often he's trying to, accumulate those assets and he's able to take advantage of some people. But he's now in a position where I think you can't draft a Jeremiah Fears or an Edgecombe or any of the guys other than Ace Bailey that are in that mix. You've got to take a swing to get a potential superstar on your team. And Ace Bailey, to me, is that guy.
Well, and if nothing else, right? Like, unless the lottery odds are changing, you can't assume that next year it's going to be different, right? Like, ideally, it would be. Ideally, you could say, all right, like, we like Trey Johnson enough, we like Fears enough, we like Kasparas Akashonas enough, and we can go push all our eggs into the DeBonsa basket or the Peterson basket. But I mean, how could you? I mean, Insanity's doing the same thing over and over again, right? Like, how could you go back and say, all right, we're going to hope that next year in Chicago the lottery balls bounce our way? You just can't do that if you're Utah.